Howdy. I think it's episode 37, of our Heaven's Vault playthrough. We are continuing towards a distant, ancient site. One of the fun things about archaeology games is that you can always go back and back and back and back to try and find the source of something. Fundamentally, it's like going downhill, right? You know where you're going because you want to go back further and further. And it's a very trivial way to do things. I'm going to go ahead and get this toy rather than go to the destination. It's a very trivial way to do things. You're writing a story and it's just like every site you want to go to is the previous site. But that's a really powerful way to do it, and it's a driving force that is easy to use in your stories. You can also, if you don't want to do that, you have to take care to give yourself driving forces that still exist, because in this game there really aren't very many. We have problems where many times it was uninteresting to us whether someone knew where we were going and what was going on or any of that stuff. We couldn't get anybody interested in anything. This seems wrong. And so we weren't interested in anything. I was going to say something interesting, and then I got sidetracked by the fact that there is not enough. There's not enough words. Come on, give us words. That's not going to work. You're going to... Well, you got a validation? You're going to give us a standalone grow? Okay. So... Boop. And that's like day crystals, huh? So maybe that would be mine. Or maybe it would be rich. Grow strong. As trees. So I think that's it, yeah. May plants grow strong as trees. Maybe not. Plants might be wrong. We'll see. Anyway, we're headed towards the place where we were trying to get to, but I'm not actually sure that we are down the right road right now. We're not. We're going to have to take some rights, or lefts. I guess it'll be lefts. So it might take a little while to get there. We can do more chattering. I know that that's basically what this Let's Play has been about. I haven't really been focusing on the story or on finding all the details or any of that stuff. I've mostly been focusing on the engine and how it's put together. I don't know if I've talked about the fundamental nature of their engine and of, a tool version, but basically all of their dialogue is done through preconditions. So, this dialogue only happens if X and Y and Z are all true. And those could be, a place you're in, or a fact you've learned, or someone you're with. So, in essence, these usually end up being chains. They're not necessarily chains that all unfold at once, though. They're frequently chains with long delays in the middle. For example, if we get interested in 6, we can't drill straight down 6's backstory and immediately unlock the Empress right at the beginning of the game. But most of 6's conversations are in a chain. Most of 6's core conversations are in a chain where eventually you will unlock the Empress if you pursue them. And that is what I would call a context. It is one set of informational elements that is all part of a single situation. It's a context. And that's why I call it a context engine when you have something that creates those. But the problem is that for these devs, the Heaven's Vault devs, the contexts are hand-built word by word. Every conversation you have floats on its own in a giant bin of conversational elements, and all those preconditions get checked. And in the end, they have to test all that stuff themselves. So from the perspective of the engine that we're in, even though all of 6's conversations come one after the other eventually, The game doesn't really understand that. It's just waiting for the next precondition. That means that it's difficult to debug. It's difficult to make sure that all your conversations happen correctly. But it's also difficult to pace, because the engine doesn't know how long it has before it needs to do something else, or whether or not it needs to connect these two contexts, because it doesn't know what a context is. So basically, the tool would be to organize those. Not all of them have to be in chains, but usually there are some core chains. They might split, they might merge. You may end up with like hangers-on, just kind of floating off to the side, where you want random conversations to happen, but only when contexts have gotten so far. But since all the core story arcs are context chains, the game can understand that they're chained together. Oh, look at that. That was fast. I didn't expect to arrive here for another 5 minutes. We'll talk about it later. Yeah, I'm not terribly excited about it, other than the fact that it's really old, because you haven't told me anything about it. You haven't made anybody care about it. I'm the only person that knows about it, and I don't have any ideas about it.
We made our way between ancient clustered trees.
These really don't look that ancient.
The air seemed to hang from their branches, dank and heavy, like wet cloth.
So I thought that the older moons would have all died, but this moon certainly hasn't. Somehow its wellspring is still intact. By the way, I've been in ancient forests. This is not how they look. Presumably that's a budgetary constraint, but it's just something where I don't read this as being terribly ancient. To me, it looks kind of like a middle-aged forest. None of these trees look older than maybe 200 years. Been a while since we've been to Mayerzy. We haven't been given the option. Oh, ooh, I bet that was loud. My bad, I was itching my ear, and I knocked the pop filter into the mic, which I'm sure created quite a pop. Where are we going? Can we get on there? No. Where are we going? There we are. Oh, so this canyon is artificial. Interesting. That's quite an artificial canyon. So this Empress, according to her, she was the one that overthrew the robots, and then she slept, I guess, and then she overthrew the Empire later. And she doesn't know of anything like this. She was talking about how Iox had really degraded recently, and Iox is a piece of trash. So presumably she is very familiar with incredible space technologies, but she doesn't know of anything that could dig this. And this is one of the reasons why the loop is clearly false. I mean, there might be some kind of looping involved, but it's not as exact as people make it out to be, because the fundamental nature of things is not the same. They keep getting smaller and worse and crappier. I know all those. Come on, give me some new words. I need to go back and translate a bunch of book stuff, and you're giving me all of these words that I already know. Jerks. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh, there it is. Oh, look at that. Golly, do you think this place is still verdant after thousands and thousands and thousands of years might be the source of a lot of water. The problem is I have no idea how long ago that was carved. If the moss was arranged around it rather than covering it, it had to have been within the past couple of years, because moss is not, I mean, moss is slow compared to certain things, but it's not a small thing. It grows quite fast in comparison to, stone. So stone doesn't grow. I'm trying to say that it would have grown over that inscription quite aggressively if it had been more than a couple of years. But I don't know whether or not the devs knew that, because maybe they didn't grow up in a mossy part of Washington that is covered in moss. If you don't see it, you may not realize just how aggressive life can be. Either that or someone came by quite recently. I mean, look, there's like boards that have been intact. I mean, they should be covered in moss, but I can see why you might not have wanted to cover it in moss, because it would have been hard for the player to understand what the heck it was. So we found a tiny little boat. But you know what? It may be a boat that actually goes on actual water.
I brushed away dirt and scraped away the moss.
Hooray, a lantern with some words on it. Wait, quality, huh? Nice. Well, I think I recognize all of those words again. We're really not getting very far very fast, are we? Do. I mean, offer might be wrong. It's probably save. Yeah. Boop. Boop. Heaven will save us. Our vault will save us all. This is children's stuff. And literally, it's a children's story. These are the pre-scripted elements. I doubt these change very much. Maybe they do. But how did a tiny ship get out here? What was its purpose? Was it launched by water or chemicals? It certainly didn't flow on the river. Oh, good. It's going to be easier to find, even though it's off in the middle of nowhere where I can't actually reach it. But I can find it. Yeah, well, that's clearly water garden. I actually think it's the name of the place, but I wanted to choose the other one today. Yeah, I think it's actually like a water boat rather than something else. I think I got lost here. I do like games where the jungles are dense enough where you can actually get lost. That's nice.
The trees parted into a clearing around a listing statue.
Hey, snake. How you doing? Oh, he's got arms. It's not the snake. This must be the water goddess? No, it's not the water. I've forgotten what goddess this is. I thought it was a snake because of the pattern that we found up on the rocks. So in the olden days, we had science that looks like 1960s mad science. I have a feeling that if we don't resurrect the Empress, 6 says literally all of the same things, just with different words attached rather than imbecile. Once again, we know all of these words. I'm never going to be able to read the book. You're feeding me all of this. Well, I guess I'm not terribly surprised. I did a lot of word-related stuff. I focused on words to the exclusion of everything else in this playthrough. So it's not a surprise that I am ahead of the word game, but not ahead enough to actually read the book. But everything fit. Okay, fine. Apparently the only difference is that it's like the Earth Goddess instead of the temple. That's fine. I can fill it in. It's no biggie. Oh, it was the end of the phrase, so that was the previous word's tip. No, I would say that they caused rather than believed. At least that's my current operating theory, because it's pretty clear that these advanced pieces of science can do things like control gravity, which would make it pretty easy to fling water around. A lamp? To worship it, presumably. Come on, let's get around this lady and see what we can have to say here. It does it. Golly, how about you put you can put stuff on there. We can talk to the Child Empress again. You think the Child Empress was Enkai? Yeah, come on down. Now, before we ask her to do anything, let's give her a moment alone with it. Alright, so she said, let me have a look, and then she didn't. Oh, now I can ask her what is it. Oh, neat. I'm glad that my hand is now irradiated. I got another hopper eye. Golly, do you think it teleports water in? So I would say that if I was writing the story, I would be tying all of this together. I would try to... oh, neat. I would try to make it so that we have a connection between the hopper, between the gravity, between the robots. I would try and tie it all up into a singular concept. We shall see whether or not that is what they do. Ah, this is where all the Ioxian water comes from. Water. It's clearly water. So this is an interesting time for us to stop and make a backup save, because if I cover the hopper source, do you think I'll starve Iox of water? Let's find out next time.